Hi, I'm Rebecca, and today I'll be telling you the story of Cinderella. Once upon a time, in a kingdom far, far away, there was a young girl named Cinderella who lived with her father. And so he remarried to give her a mother. But soon after, Cinderella's father died, and her stepmother, with two daughters, showed their true colors. And they abused and neglected poor Cinderella and turned her into a servant in her own home. Well, Cinderella grew up dreaming of a happily ever after nonetheless, and she grew up strong and smart and intelligent. And at the same time, on the other side of the kingdom, the king wanted an heir for his throne. And he had only one son, the prince. But the prince was a headstrong young man, and he wasn't just going to marry anyone. He wanted love. So the Grand Duke came up with a compromise and said, "We'll have a ball and invite every woman in the kingdom. And if you find someone there that you love, that will be your new wife." It was a perfect, splendid idea. So, when the stepmother, Cinderella's stepmother, caught wind of this, she rushed over to her daughters and she said, "Girls, we must act right now. We must hurry, for there is a chance that one of you could become the new queen. We must get ready immediately. There is to be a ball." And so the girls got into a frenzy and were so excited and dancing around. And Cinderella heard this and came out and she said, "Oh my goodness! Everyone's invited, I can go too." But Cinderella's stepmother said to her slyly, "Yes, you can go, Cinderella, if you get all of your chores done." And Cinderella said, "Oh, thank you so much, I can do that so quick." But right at that moment, Cinderella's stepmother gave her a whole list of chores to get done, on top of her regular chores. And then her two sisters, they gave her so many chores to do as well, and they ordered her around and they bossed her around, until poor Cinderella had just too much work to do, and had no time for herself to make her own gown for the ball. And so, after she finished all her work, she walked up, sulking, up to her room in the attic, knowing that there was no chance that she could make it to the ball, for she had nothing to wear. But when she got to her room, in the corner there was a beautiful, simple, but adorable little gown that was perfect for Cinderella. It had been made by the mice and the birds, her friends. And so Cinderella put it on and she twirled around and she felt so lovely in it. And she rushed down to the carriage right before I was leaving. She said, wait, I'm ready, I can go too." But her stepsisters, seeing a few of their beads and some ribbons that the mice had taken, they rushed over to her and they tore the beads off her and they tore the ribbons off her and they ruined her whole dress, leaving Cinderella with nothing but a torn old gown to wear, nothing to wear to the ball. And they left with their noses in the air, and it said, Poor Cinderella. With tears welling up in her eyes, she ran over to the garden, and she wept and wept and wept, until a woman appeared. A woman who was her fairy godmother. And she tapped Cinderella on the shoulder, and she said, "Cinderella, why are you crying?" And Cinderella said, "I'm so sad, I have nothing to wear to the ball." And she said, "Not to worry, we will fix that." And so her fairy godmother took her wand, and she went over to the garden next to her, and she wished her wand, and a pumpkin grew and grew and grew, until it was a great big coach with gold trim, and the mice were scurrying by. And so the fairy godmother took her wand, and she whisked them, and they turned into great big horses and a coachman to pull the coach. And the fairy godmother said, "Perfect, now you're all ready to go." And Cinderella said, "Aren't we forgetting one thing?" And the fairy godmother laughed, and she said, "Of course I'm forgetting that, silly. Your dress." And so she took her wand and she said, "Bippity, boppity, boo!" And Cinderella's dress turned into a great big silver sparkling gown where she twirled around and she felt so beautiful. And the fairy godmother took her shoes and she turned them into beautiful, sparkling glass crystal slippers. And Cinderella had never felt so spectacular in her whole life. And so she got in the coach and she was just about to leave until her fairy godmother said, "Wait! One more thing. Cinderella, at the stroke of midnight, the magic will wear off. Time is of the essence." And Cinderella said, "Thank you so much, fairy godmother. That is plenty of time. Thank you." And she rushed off to the ball, and when Cinderella got there, she was the most beautiful girl in the whole place, and all eyes were turned towards her. But she was unannounced, and nobody knew who she was. And the prince went to go dance one dance with her. But right at the strike of midnight, Cinderella rushed off, and nobody knew who she was. And she got back into the coach and she ran and ran and ran, but she left behind one glass slipper. And so the next day, the king and the prince had no idea who she was. They had the one glass slipper to try to find her. And so the king decreed that any maiden who fits the glass slipper will marry the prince, for the prince had to come up with a bride. And so the duke sent out his carriages to search wide and low for a woman who would fit the glass slipper, the mysterious girl. And they tried and tried and tried, but nobody fit the glass slipper, until finally they got to the chateau where Cinderella lived. And her two stepsisters tried it on. Their feet were too big and they couldn't fit in, and they tried to jam their feet in there, but it wouldn't work. And so the Duke, about to give up all hope of ever finding this girl, was about to leave, until finally Cinderella called down, "Wait, I'd like to try on the slipper too." And so as the Duke knelt down to go put the glass slipper onto Cinderella, her stepmother came and she knocked the glass slipper out of the Duke's hands, and it shattered into millions of pieces. And the Duke was about to cry, for he thought that the king would behead him. But Cinderella produced the other glass slipper, and so she tried it on, and it fit just right. And in the end, Cinderella traveled with the Duke back to the castle, where she married the prince and became queen of the kingdom. And the couple lived happily ever after. The end. Thanks, guys.